Hey, what's up? What's up, everybody? We're back with another episode of the Praxis podcast, Career Bound. We are continuing with the theme of the past few weeks, going to do some live breakdowns of LinkedIn profiles submitted by Praxis community members here. So we got a handful of profiles. We're going to just dive right into it, give some specific feedback. When we're reviewing these LinkedIn profiles, really kind of the goal, let's talk about that a little bit more, just to set the right tone for the episode. So we're going to do a general professional review, assuming, making a broad sweeping assumption here that someone might be using this profile to either get job opportunities, to get clients, or to serve as credibility. Maybe they're running a business, freelance business or something like that, assuming that this profile is a useful way to bolster credibility, if their clients are researching them. So generally, professional utility here as it relates to career development. So how did this profile help me win opportunities? We are not going to go break down each specific profile in terms of this person has told us they are on the job hunt for these types of roles. These are more of the general professional review. So that's a distinction that I wanted to make. This feedback might be a little bit different if these were people on the job hunt who specifically were trying to target a specific set of roles. So maybe in the future we will do that with people who are new on the job hunt and their profiles aren't really geared towards that. So just keep that in mind. That might be a little bit different. Some of these profiles are a little bit farther in their career, and they have a little bit more of a history developed. And so some of them are already pretty strong. There's still areas for improvement. We'll call that out. So that's my quick housekeeping disclaimer before we dive right in. And John, anything to add before we pull up the first profile?
No, I think you covered everything. I'm looking forward to hearing what you think and seeing if there's anything that comes to mind from there.
All right, let's see here. I'm going to start it off over here. All right, diving right in with Theo's profile. So do a quick scan here. Theo, design at Role Model Software, Holly Springs, North Carolina. Congratulations, Theo, 4-year anniversary here at Role Model Software. So one of the things immediately jumps out as I'm scrolling through Theo's profile is it's very well developed. There's a ton of content here already. It looks like he's quite active with his LinkedIn profile in terms of keeping it up to date with work experience. He's got some level of activity here, engaging with others. That's probably an immediate call out here. Is there's probably a frequency of interaction that's somewhat relevant to the types of career paths you're interested in. If we're doing like sales or marketing roles, or you're like in an executive capacity, maybe some benefit to be had from being a lot more active. Similarly, up here, I noticed said 481 connections. That's another one where boosting those connection numbers, if you are being active in terms of like posting, engaging with other people's posts, commenting, sharing, your profile feed is going to show up a lot more over a lot bigger audience as you drive those connection up, then you're more engaged. So it's not an absolutely critical thing, but it is one of those easy benefits. I wouldn't say the way to remedy this is to just go spam a bunch of people with connection requests. Build connection requests where you've got authentic connections, or where you are intentionally, deliberately seeking to build relationships with other people in a specific industry or domain where you have mutual shared interest. There are right ways to do that. There are wrong ways to do that. But just based off a quick glance of Theo's profile, so he has several dimensions that might make sense. So here, specifically design, reaching out to people in the design space, software engineering, product development, marketing, all of those, reaching out to, so anybody that works at his company, I would say, building those connections there with people that he's actually worked with at, various companies here. This is probably the most relevant experience where that would make sense. If he's trying to take his career, continuing to try and build his career in the software design space, making sure that, you're building out that connection number with people that are in that space.
Yeah.
Another area to build out those connections, look for recruiters who work in that space. So the recruiters who specialize in tech firms, software companies, that types of thing. As far as, top to bottom, headshot looks good. Strong, I would say you could probably, it's pretty good. You could probably do a slightly higher resolution. It might be because my screen is blown up that looks a little bit out of focus. But overall, it's good. Smiling face, nothing distracting in the background. I like that it has a design element to it. Like change the background. That's like one little small thing that I think enhances the overall sort of brand identity around design here. And we're making that assumption that is the direction Theo wants to take his career based on his headline, based on his existing bio and his work experience here. So this is another point of feedback that I'd say, you can argue either point here. What's the purpose of a background here? Your sort of profile banner here. You can make that career specific. So if you are a designer, maybe you have some design element that you actually designed and it's clear that you designed that. Or you can make it more of a personality focus, like this is a personal touch. It looks like that's probably Theo, I don't know, maybe just finished running a 5K or, marathon or something. Maybe it's him. I know that he has down here, his faith is an important part of his life. And maybe that is, him pointing up to the heavens. I'm not sure what that is, but it's one of those things where it's like your banner is real estate on your LinkedIn profile. There are different ways you can use it. You can use it to sort of capture your personality, which I think Theo's does here. It's a good picture. It's something that, gives me a quick pause, and it's like, it's not something that's like totally distracting, but I don't think that it's something that's immediately moving the needle if he was on the job hunt, because it's something that, and the reason being is that it's something that is left open to interpretation. Like, what is the value of this? And so if this was a profile that was on the job hunt, I would say any area, any free real estate you have on your profile that you can turn from something vague or generic or somewhat abstract to a specific value or something that's like immediately obvious, that's a way that you might be able to boost the immediate value of this. Now, we said at the beginning, these are not necessarily profiles of people on the job hunt. So I don't think there's anything wrong with this. If Theo's really happy in his career, he's just looking for ways to boost his profile, maybe to drive engagement. So that there's an argument to be made there. If your goal is to just be better at building a brand or a personality or an audience, or be more effective at engaging with other people on LinkedIn, there's an argument to be made that you design all of these things to your headline, your picture, your bio, all around creating the right expectation for other people who might land on your profile for what you're about, the content that they can expect to be shared by you, the areas of subject matter expertise, things along that line. Based on the activity here, I wouldn't say that seems to be Theo's apparent goal. So again, if you're satisfied in your career and you're not immediately on the job hunt, you're not immediately using your profile as a way to try and build an audience or anything like that, I would say this is a strong profile, just based off these early reactions. So those are some of the things that I would say jump out though. I like this bio. I think that it is, I think it's very descriptive. I think it's personal. I like that it is in the first person. I like that it has embedded in it sort of this implicit holistic picture of Theo as a person. It is a little bit more career oriented than personality driven, but it does have some of his personality embedded in it. Easy wins here. Add in results. If there are a couple of results that you can layer in throughout this description that are relevant to the types of roles, the direction you want to continue to grow your career, that's an easy win. Right here, you're taking advantage of all the real estate on LinkedIn, all that it has to offer. These are all just marginally valuable things that he's done to make his profile jump out. I like that he has some services here. He has some actual images here. I'd say, if anything, you can probably expand this to showcase your portfolio even more. He does have some media here. Looking at four years in the field, so having only a few examples there, I would expect maybe a little bit more that he could add. So one easy thing. When it comes to all of these, so I like that most of them have some type of description here. I would say, if anything, at bare minimum, you want to have descriptions on each of these. You don't want to just take for granted that they're self-evident based on the job title. Include descriptions. Ways to improve the descriptions: add results, call out specific projects, link specific media, especially in the design world, link specific things that you launched. Did you build a new website? Were you the guy behind it? Were there wireframes that you developed? Link to those actual things here, including adding those descriptions. I love that he's got this self-employed, a couple different self-employed situations here. Maybe calling out, some of the things that were valuable there, metrics if possible, but calling out, what was the value of this experience, not just as an employee, but like, you were an entrepreneur. This business appears to still be active. What types of clients do you work with? Those types of things make it a little bit more descriptive. I don't think you really need to go overboard on these earlier career experiences that are not quite as focused on the specific path. You can make use of those. You can call out some things in more detail. They're a good bare minimum. Argument to be made that at some point you can begin to drop these off your LinkedIn profile. Unless you feel like they're a useful part of your story, you can keep them. All right, continuing to scroll down here. Education, everything looks good here. The ways that you could improve this is, by highlighting some of the value that you took out of each one of these programs, why you chose to pursue them, what the value, both in terms of the educational, the social, anything that you got out of the experience that was valuable, that's contributed to your career. Same thing with these certificates. This is where I'd say, allowing his personality to shine. I love that he's got this Hillsdale College certificate that seems just totally out of left field compared to some of these other certificates. But it's like, okay, Theo's clearly intellectually curious. I like that he's got this variety here. These credentials all seem to be, the rest of these credentials all seem to be valuable and relevant to the types of roles that he's pursuing. So in that sense, they have value, specific value related to sort of the direction that his career is unfolding, just based on interpreting his profile here. Volunteer experience, again, you're contributing to this overall composite signal you're sending about who you are as a professional. You're giving back, you're involved outside of just your role. Definitely benefits to be had from that. The skills here, I'd say easy one here is go get people to endorse you along, across these different skills, especially ones that are directly relevant to your career goals. Honors and awards, nice to see something there, by his company. That's great, definitely valuable. And then down here, this is really one of those things that are preference. You can continue to add interest here that, they make use of that real estate, or you can just remove those blocks from your profile. I don't think that that's one that's really moving the needle. That's more of, hey, here's a little bit, more, here's a little bit more detail about who I am, if you even go this far in the profile. But overall, pretty strong profile. Well done, Theo. Anything to add, John?
Yeah, I think that was all really accurate, and I agree with everything. One, if I was like giving Theo something to take away, like, hey, like, here's, if you're gonna make any changes, like, this is probably what I would do if I were you. So because he has these services here, I'm assuming that kind of like the business, the cell phone business, the owner designer is active, and he's offering those. So I would say it's just an opportunity to make the profile sort of scream that earlier, because obviously, let's say he's content in his job and he's happy there, which it seems like he is. But if he also just wants to do this on the side, something that he wants to use to hone his craft, make some extra money, just keep building a portfolio, I think it's cool. The services are pretty high up here. So I would say two to three things would make the most sense. I would add in his tagline just something about that, like the classic, like I help or I work with so and so client to do XYZ thing through design or something like that. Like adding a tagline like that up at the top of his under his name,
Yep.
I think would be good. That would be the one thing. The second thing would be experimenting with what he thinks about a different banner. I like the banner a lot. I think it's a cool picture. But if that's like you said, it's real estate where he could advertise that
Yep.
service or that skill. That'd be a good spot. And then the other thing is, and there's probably different schools of thought about why you should do this or why not. But at 481 connections, I think it would be worth spending 10 to 20 minutes sending out, like finding another 20 relevant people to connect with and adding them to his network, even if it's just for the fact of, okay, if he's offering services, somebody might come to his LinkedIn, 500 plus connections, he's active, LinkedIn matters to him. Not that you want to send a fake signal, but what I mean is, people look and they're going to see, okay, this could be a maxed out profile, if that makes sense. And I know that's kind of like one way of thinking about it, but I think that those would be the few things that I would change. But other than that, I think it's a really solid profile.
Yep. One final point that I want to, this is, me being just teetotaler, and well done, Theo, nailed it. So LinkedIn profile, this is especially if you're going to be using your profile off platform here and linking to it or pointing to it, it's your first name hyphen last name, first name, last name. Like, it's a very simple, clean URL that has your name. It's not something, LinkedIn /kitty 1945 25 numbers and then your name. Like, it's a very clean URL, your contact information. As a designer here, having personal websites, linking to portfolio, also great. So those were some kind of next level details that I think are also worth confirming there.
That CV link is very cool. By the way, I just clicked on it in his contact info. The awesome. Funny looking link, really cool.
Yeah. Great. Awesome. We're going to move on. All right. We're going to look at Angelos here. So finance operations at International Accelerator, Austin, Texas. Bio, do a quick scan here. All right. We're similar to Theo's here. Some things that are immediately jumping out here, just the content. He's actually gone out and developed the profile. There are content blocks within each one of these work experiences, all of the ones that are visible. They appear to be, like fully developed. And then he has skills associated with each one of those, which I think is also super valuable. You're contextualizing those experience with the skills related to it. For each one of these, we've talked about it before, detailing out specific results that you've contributed to in each of these descriptions. I like this top one without even reading the content. The level of detail and the way that he added some unique formatting to it that makes it a little bit easier to scan, and then he's calling out specific things that he did. So again, with each one of these, layering in results for the specific experiences, highlighting those using formatting. So whether it's trying to bold or italicize or just using the hash marks to create bullets, making a way of calling out those results that you're most proud of that are relevant to the roles here. So that's all all easy things. Again, we're looking at a banner here where I would say it's a question of what's your goal with the profile. If it's job hunt related, using a banner that is a little bit more specific to your objective. What I don't see here in Angelo's profile, but I know is important to him is he loves cars. He's a self-taught mechanic. He like anytime anything goes wrong with his car, he fixes it himself. And it's something that he loves to do. I think that's actually a positive part of his signal. He's got it. You're not going to interpret that from his picture, but I think that would contextualize the banner picture here more, is calling that out. I think it's we've talked a little bit about, in the last one about like this overall composite signal you're building and the way that some of those added details help enhance they show a reflection of your personality and signal like intellectual curiosity, or I'm somebody who's self-taught, I'm able to learn, I'm analytical, I'm a problem solver. I think calling that out is it's a nice, like calling that out in his bio, maybe, self-taught mechanic, love working on cars, I think he fully rebuilt this car. I may be making that up, but I want to say that he's done a ton of work at bare minimum. Like calling that out's a nice callback to his banner picture, contextualize it a little bit more. Right now, not on the job hunt, no harm with this banner picture. I like that his headshot, I like that it's in black and white. It's a unique, not everybody's, a lot of headshots are in color. It's got this like backdrop of a cityscape. He's in finance and operations at an accelerator in Austin, Texas. There's something about the picture that I think like kind of captures the vibe of this like metropolitan tech forward thinking kind of thing. That's like totally subjective. So I don't really have any feedback one or the other than like, hey, I like it. Nice work there. Finance and operations international accelerator. I like the call out specific areas of the business that he's working in. With the bio here, he is earlier in his career. It is somewhat tailored toward that, but I think that there can be a lot of, improvement here, calling out specific projects, calling out specific skills that he's developed and referencing the experiences where he's developed those, adding in some specific metrics, especially if he's calling out some really valuable metric in his bio that references a metric that he's called out in the job description below. That would be one way that I would improve it. Your call to action here. So, not on the job hunt. This is probably fine. But it really gets, to the heart of the matter, like what's your goal with the profile? It doesn't appear to be building a brand. 5 months ago is the last piece of activity here. So like the table stake stuff, you've got a decent amount of connections already, especially for how early you are in your career. If you're really trying to get the most value out of LinkedIn, from a networking perspective or future career opportunities, maybe you are deliberately trying to build your network on LinkedIn with the types of people in this arena. Maybe it's in the accelerator space or it's finance and operations and like the tech startup world. I would tailor your bio to that a little bit more if that was your stated goal. I would begin to increase the activity, specifically commenting and engaging with other people who are in those arenas and doing that on a more frequent basis. 5 months ago is kind of a dormant profile. I don't think that you have to be active on LinkedIn to get hired. So like, I'll throw that out there. It's just one of those things that like, the more active you are, the more you're going to show up in the feed. And so if you are applying to jobs, you have connections, those recruiters to your profile, you're popping up. Plus the real value, if you do it really well, is in this perception of authority that you can develop for yourself by being super engaged, having a ton of followers, having content that other people are engaging with, regularly engaging, especially if you're somewhat hyper specific about that content. So overall, very strong education here. I'd probably take the high school diploma off at this point. I think this is a good description of Praxis at the bare minimum. You could probably link to a portfolio, some projects that you created, or call out, some of the other, valuable parts you got out of this. Skills here, similar to the last one. Add some endorsements, especially the ones that are relevant to what you're doing. I would try and order these based on the direction you want to take your career. So put the ones that are most important up at the top. And then get endorsements, especially if those endorsements are from people you've worked with or people that are in the industry. Languages, bilingual. I like that. That's a nice, differentiator here. Your interests, not a ton developed here, but we saw on Theo's profile, there were other things like volunteer work, certifications, all those kind of things. That's totally a preference, and it's also somewhat, contextual to the types of roles you're pursuing. So finance and operations, I would say if there are certificates or things that Angelos has done specific to finance and operations, finance, this is more true, where there is a somewhat of a level of expectation for credentials, in the finance space. maybe that's not a college degree or, you know, an MBA, though the farther up the ladder in that space you climb, like if you're going to work in corporate finance, like there's going to be some type of expectation for that. That's not true of most career paths. If he just wants to work in startups, not as big of a deal. But I'd say maybe there's, you know, you took like a valuation or financial modeling or something like that. And you've either added a project to your certificate or something like that. I don't think it's going to like move the needle or anything, but again, we're just giving recommendations of like what are ways that maybe this overall composite signal is enhanced a little bit. So those are some small things. Overall, pretty strong profile, given where Angelos is in his career. I think he's done a great job calling these things out. And I'm going to look here. Contact information, well done up here. That's all I've got. John, what do you have to add here?
No, I think it's good. Honestly, the one thing I would say, I actually really like your initial feedback about the car. I think it would be cool to have that, like, to have that personal touch. Specifically, I don't know. I think, and again, this is similar to what I said with the last one. There's different lines of thinking and different schools of thought about, you know, how you should position your LinkedIn. Should it be strictly professional, no personality? I lean pretty heavily towards thinking it should be fairly personal, because that's also a concept we've talked about of like, I don't think I need to pretend to be somebody I'm not. Professional. Like it's just me. Like, obviously you should hold yourself to certain standards. There's certain things that, like, okay, like that's maybe, like, we could all agree like something might be inappropriate. But as far as like injecting your personality into your LinkedIn, I think it's really important. And I also live in like the sales and marketing side of LinkedIn, so like that's everybody. But I think that can span across there. So I think that was a great piece of, like, you know, if he was going to add anything to make it, like, you know, if he was going to level it up, I think that would be really cool to add, like, just a piece about, like, even if it's just something simple about how he learned to, you know, be a self-mechanic on his own car. I think that would be cool.
Yep. Awesome. Well, we're going to move on to the next one. And I think that this tracks really well with sort of where we're at, you know, where the conversation is navigating about this kind of differentiation between personality and professionalism. Is there a way to marry the two and like really, you know, really develop that brand? I hate the idea of personal brand, but like your online reputation, your professional reputation, your identity as other people, you know, interpret it when they're interacting with sort of your digital footprint. Like, this is a really good profile that I think does this well. So Randolin absolutely nailed this. So immediately, one of the things that I think jumps out that's differentiated from these other is the tagline. It's different. It's not "I do X job at X company." It's writing content that resonates with your people. Her profile picture here says "Fuel your passion." If you go down here and read it, I love all of the formatting. I love that there are specific results called out. I love that there is a highlight of specific skills. I love that there is a call to action. There is personality baked into this, and it's done in a very, very high level where it is not, it's personality that enhances a signal, not personality that detracts from a signal. The structure of it, the layout, like there are paragraph breaks here. It's not all just a wall of text either. There are emojis. You get a sense of Randolin's personality here, which is, I think, is valuable, especially given that she's offering services. She has a freelance business, and that's a really good preview for people who are maybe landing on her profile and contemplating working with her. They're getting this preview of who Randolin the person is and what it might be like to engage with her, how they can expect to engage with her in terms of the tone, overall feel. That's where I'd say, you know, this profile picture makes sense. She's talking about doing ghostwriting and brand development for people. Her tagline, it says writing content that resonates with your people. The headline up here says fuel your passion. It all seems very consistent across the board. And so I'd say, you know, more power to her here. We're going to look at the contact information. Well done. Again, link to her website for her freelance business. That's great. You can continue to go down here. She's got services listed here. I think that it can be fine that this is very simple. There's not a ton of stuff linked. You could argue that maybe Maybe you are adding in some specific case studies for clients that, of results that you've done, and you're calling out those results. Probably a small thing that you can do here. I like that she's got these featured posts here, especially given she's talking about ghostwriting, content marketing. All of these are directly relevant to the skills she's offering. They're a great preview of, her writing style, her content, her voice. If some of these are written for other people, which I'm not going to click into these right now, but they're a good sample of her work, and that's, those are the types of services she's already offering. Her activity is very engaged. 1,509 followers, 500 plus connections. Like, she's built an audience here. It's not 100,000 or anything like that, but she's running a freelance business. She's doing marketing. This is a great starting point where I'd say continue to keep at this, continue to post engaging content, continue to engage with others. You're going to drive that follower count up. That's going to contribute to, probably lead flow for freelance opportunities, job opportunities. So overall, a lot of strong here, a lot to be proud of here. I like that her she's got the founder and CEO, great here, but I like that this sort of mirrors everything we just talked about. It's a call to action here, which I think is great. I talked earlier about, maybe linking to some case studies. That's I would reiterate that here, linking to case studies of results that you've driven for clients, specifically calling that out. With each one of these, I think that you could break out specific results more. You could add, which there are results in some of these, great, there's results here. You could add in a little bit more detail about some of the things that you did, point to specific content samples or specific projects that you worked on. She's got skills that she's referencing here. Overall solid on these. She's got this very well developed brand already and experiences that, what I like about this is these experiences all compound on one another. We've got marketing and sales, event planning, creative coordinator, media intern, strategy and brand specialist, relationship development specialist, podcaster, marketing content, an advisor, content manager. All of that rolls back up into her freelance business. So I'd say very strong profile in terms of credibility. There's a clear direction and clear narrative, or clear narrative arc for her career journey. So a lot of positive things to say here. Education, you could probably enhance that, adding some of the things that, you worked on, calling out some of the value you got, linking to specific work. Skills, you could, you could beef this up, reorder them. Brand marketing is probably really high up there based on, the skills she's offering. Go seek out endorsements. Also seek out recommendations. She's got some great recommendations already here. I like that there's actual detailed content here. So that's great. Could continue to build on that. Got an honor and award, 25 under 25. Awesome. Has some developed interest here. So those are some of the simple things. There's not a ton. I think that this is probably one of the overall best profiles of the three we've reviewed, not to compare them, but the reason being in terms of best in terms of overall consistent story from top to bottom, making use of all of the things to sort of reinforce this brand. It's not something where I'm left trying to interpret what Randolyn's good at or, the direction that she's focused her career on. It all sort of supports the same story. And that's what I think is makes it really, really strong overall.
Agreed. There's two things I would call out for anybody listening that is thinking about, having their own, if they have their own company or they're building a brand and they want to leverage something like LinkedIn. Randy's profile is a good example. So you could see, I'm doing it on my screen, but you could see on your screen, she has her follower count showing in addition to her connection count. She's in she's in creator mode. So that's most social medias have that distinction now. So most social media platforms have that distinction now. So that's if you're trying to do that, it's a good thing to do. It sends a nice signal, and it also like it'll give you different insights on your posts when you on the back end. So that's something to do if you are trying to do that. And then the other thing, and this is something I'm learning just even as I build my own brand and listen to other people talk about their journey, like not to be overly obsessed with follower counts. Like, sure, more followers will lead to good things. Like it'll be a top of funnel thing, and it'll increase your interactions, which eventually will lead people to your offer, and hopefully will get people to make a buying decision. But it's also like somebody with 1,500 follower count but a great offer could be more successful financially, like with that offer, than somebody who's got a $15,000 follower count but they have no clear offer, and they don't have they write funny content but they don't have a way to offer their services or offer a product. So that's just something to note as a side. Like, follower count, good thing to grow because it probably will yield good fruit, but it's not everything if you don't have like the proper offer. Like, Randy has a great offer. It's consistent. It's through her whole page. I bet you even if she only stayed at this size, she'd do just fine with her freelance business because her own business, because she's got a good offer.
Yep, for sure. All right, let's move on to the next one here. So share this tab. Let's go. All right, Wardis. We're going to go jump into Wardis's profile here. Wardis, marketing growth and UX. Immediately, this is a great contrast to the past few banner profiles. So this one immediately jumps out. The word design twice. Boom, boom. UX design. He's like, that's what I meant earlier about this leaves no room for interpretation. It's immediately obvious. Both because of the words, but there are design elements here. He's got his name here. This is bespoke graphic. His profile picture, like the color, the way that this triangle falls down and his background is purple, it's the same shade. Like this is overall a positive aesthetic for somebody that's a designer. It's even without like going and looking through his experience, there's something about design that I would say, when you see good design, when you see bad design. And this is one that you immediately look at and be like, okay, he's got some credibility as a designer just based off the immediate aesthetic reaction here. So overall, positive. Doesn't have a company listed, but has this marketing growth and UX specifically called out the areas that he's great. I think that can also be a great way to approach tagline. He's got his personal website with the portfolio linked right there. Contact information, name, portfolios linked. Fantastic. Well done, Warris. All right, we're going to go here. He's got some experiences called out here. He's got a little bit of a personal narrative here. I would say this bio could use some work, turning it into less of a somewhat choppy paragraph, but turning it into a narrative. I think looking at Randy's profile is actually a really good example.
Yeah.
Theo's could be another one good here because he's also design focused, but trying to do this in a storytelling format or breaking down some of the experiences in a little bit more detail, where you were valuable, projects that you've worked on. He does have one specific here, which I think is good. And it's a good starting point, but those are some of the things that I would do to improve this. I think you can use formatting as well. I'd say the overall formatting of this is inconsistent with the design aesthetic here. This looks like it's very polished. There was a lot of intentionality to this. And then there's like this wall of text here. And I'd say I would expect this to be more visually aesthetically pleasing just based off my initial reaction. So again, not a huge knock here, but just one of those things that I think right now it's somewhat neutral. It's a way to enhance it where it is now an asset, not something that people just kind of scroll past. 613 followers, 500 plus connections. Good starting point here. He's got somewhat frequent engagement here, 5 days, 2 weeks, depending on, what his career goals are. I would say that's a good determination that's good to use to make a determination about like what your goals are on posting engagement, driving engagement, and who to do that with, which we've talked about quite a bit. So immediately here, breaking out these experiences with more description, specific results that you've done. I do like that he's got a post linked here. And it said, my perspective at a startup seems like somewhat of a reflective learning post, which I think can be good doing that for posts. Or in addition to that, like linking to specific projects or things that he's done. Given that he is, marketing operations, he's got this up here talking about growth and UX design. I would expect a little bit more like UX focused job titles or projects featured here. And that's where I'd say maybe it would make sense if there's a media section here where he's added in specific projects. Otherwise, I'd say this here in the aesthetic seems just a little bit inconsistent. The marketing and growth part, market and growth, that's somewhat relevant, but then you've got UX, but the job descriptions here or the job titles don't say UX. He does have product designer down here. So that was a year ago. So, not a total reach, but I would say making sure, like we just looked at Randy's, everything's sort of directly aligned, and all of the experiences, all the descriptions, the bio, all of it supported the same exact narrative. And this is one where there's kind of this back and forth. Clearly a designer up here, but then we talk about marketing and growth. Those could both be, you could have a UX designer in a growth function of a business. That part makes sense. But then we've got, the aesthetic here that we talked about. And then we've got job titles that are more marketing operations focused for the past 3 job titles. And that's where I'd say either you're working on sort of those job titles, your next move, if you really want to be a UX designer, you're trying to go get a UX job. Or within these job titles you already have, you are calling out some of the UX work that you've already done, if that's the direction that you want to take your career. And so this isn't really so much of your profile's wrong, you need to redo it. It's more of, depending on what your objectives are for the near term going forward from here, I would say choose that direction and then maybe tweak the profile. If you want to stay in the marketing operations path here, I would say begin to call out some of the more analytical results and things that you have worked on. Reference some of those projects. If you want to take your career slightly more towards the UX, begin to call out some of those, share visuals, share your portfolio, make that a little bit more of a focal point. If you want to stay in sort of this T-shaped marketing generalist role, I would say just begin to call out both of those things and make your profile more of I am a jack of all trades marketer. I'm a full stack marketer, those types of things. That might be a more appropriate headline in those circumstances. But I'd say that's a really nuanced take based on, we're interpreting without specifically knowing for Morris, what are your objectives? Are there specific jobs you're trying to target in the future? But overall, these experiences, I do say they stack really well. They're all very marketing focused. He's got graphic designer content. Like, we have no question that Warris, based on this experience, like, he's a marketing guy. And the question that comes from this is, what type of marketing guy? Are you more of a creative, more of an analytical, or have you really nailed the combination of both of those? Just flesh that out a little bit more with your descriptions, your bio, your tagline. And then I would say the banner image right now, because it's more design focused, that's where it causes this discrepancy. It could be, it's a great banner picture. We've talked about that. It's a great banner picture, but it does seem to suggest more of a creative design bent to design to his marketing experience. All right, certifications look good here. These are, we've got design here, we've got marketing, we've got another design one that sort of adds to this, question of, are you trying to take your career more in the design direction or more of just marketing generalist? Got projects, designing a fitness app from scratch, graphics designer, website building. A lot of this, I would say, is more focused on the design stuff, which is great. But I said it kind of goes back to the question we just asked, and that's where I'd make the improvements here. Love that we've got recommendations, we've got publications, fantastic courses, we've got some interest developed. Overall, very strong profile. that one discrepancy is, I think the North Star that I would focus on is figuring out, what's the one singular message you want somebody to take, that you are a full stack marketer, that you're a designer, you're a marketing operations person. Like, pick one of those that you want to focus on, especially if your goal is to hit the job hunt in one of those specific paths. For now, if you're not on the job hunt, I don't think that's there's not a ton wrong here. It's a strong profile overall, but that's some of my initial reactions.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's all really good. I don't want to beat a dead horse here. I think that's good to just focus on aligning it towards the specific goal. So if it is that, more design side, going towards that. If it is that marketing operations, maybe rebranding the tagline and making it, maybe changing the quote in the banner to make it more that way. But I think what would be like a more, here's what I would do is just taking both, making them both work, and I'm a bit of a marketing generalist. Like I've got a ton of experience now in marketing operations. I've also, I love the design component. So I'd like to make those, I try to, kind of take those two and pair them together.
Yep. Overall, well done. 4 strong profiles. That's a lot of content for today. So thanks for following along for all of that. Hopefully you got some useful, actionable tips and suggestions if you are attempting to develop your LinkedIn profile. Those are 4 great examples to check out. Look at the profiles, scroll through this video, look at some of the content if you're looking for inspiration. In the meantime, thanks as always for listening. If you have suggestions for a future episode, questions for us that you'd like us to cover in a future episode, shoot them to us, playbook@discoverpraxis.com. Drop them in the comments on YouTube, leave us a 5-star review, smash subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and we'll be back again soon with another episode.